Welcome to This Week in Housing, September
9th, 2021.
September 9th, 2021. We're going to run through the headlines in the news, and we're just going to see what we find and what we can talk about. Michael, are you ready?
I am ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Headline number 1, Wall Street can't get enough fixer-upper houses. And I want to read this little blurb here. Let's see. Investors like me, we're like ants on a sugar hill, all fighting for the same projects. It's the greatest time to be in this market. It's just hard to find the inventory. Now, I know the fixer-upper people, they're always talking about foreclosures. Mm-hmm. They ain't there.
That's right.
So what are they going to do?
So good question. I got to clarify. When you said ants like me, are you talking about you, or was this the article editor that was?
They were quoting someone. It's an investor they were quoting.
I got you. Okay. So I would tell you that where do you find these fixer-uppers that Wall Street can't get enough of? I would say that in Dalton, it's not necessarily the issue that Wall Street is looking here for fixer-uppers. Now, there are some lenders out there that would lend on homes that we may go find. One position that we've found them are estate sales. Like we have seen several sellers lately that just didn't want to go through the hassle of going onto the market. And yeah, I just want a quick, easy, fast sale. I don't care if I'm leaving a couple grand on the table. If I'm leaving 10% on the table, that doesn't bother me. I just want to get rid of the house. Mm-hmm. So one place you find that is an estate sale. Another place that you may find a good deal is a divorce situation where the court orders the sale of the house, and it might be a rental house, or it might be a house that they are moving out of that may be a fixer-upper, because usually when you're going through a divorce, there's just things that aren't getting done at home one way or the other, right? So whether that's home maintenance or taking care of the relationship. So that's another place that we seem to find good deals. And honestly, the last 3 houses I bought were on the MLS. So I found really good deals on the MLS. They still exist. You just have to know how to look for them.
Mm-hmm. Not foreclosures, though.
Not foreclosures. There have been probably 5 foreclosures in the last 5 months that I've seen actually make it to the courthouse steps. Mm-hmm. Most of the time they don't make it there. Either the people catch up the payment, or they do some loan modification where they put the money on the back end. Banks are really trying their best not to have to do a foreclosure right now. So we had that forbearance and that moratorium there for a while where you couldn't foreclose even if you wanted to. So in that moment, banks were just like, okay, we got to figure out how to work this out. So foreclosures just aren't there today.
Yeah. So since the foreclosures aren't there, inventory is generally low, it sounds like maybe you got to do a little hustle to find the off-market deals, right?
Well, I would tell you that you need to hire a really good real estate agent to do that hustle for you.
Well, Michael, my next question is, do you know anybody that might do that on a pretty regular basis?
I would think that the guy sitting across the table from me might do that.
He might. I'll ask him.
Yeah.
I won 2 homes thanks to my real estate love letters, but now I think they're unfair and they need to die. And you know what she means by love letters.
I want you to tell me, what's a love letter?
Okay, so in a highly competitive market, you submit your offer. You know you're up against a whole lot of other people. Mm-hmm. So you're like, man, what can I do to sweeten the deal? You write a letter to the seller, giving your life story, whatever it is.
Do you take a picture of your kids and your dog and put that in there too?
You might. Are your kids cute? Is your dog cute?
Mine certainly is, on both counts, kid and dog. Mm-hmm. No, anyway, I've never been a huge fan of the real estate love letter. I, as a seller, am typically less emotional about it. So to me, it just didn't affect me at all, really. My wife, on the other hand, though, would probably love to have gotten the love letter and tell me what these people are going to do with our house, right? So It really just depends on who the seller is. And a lot of times, it's a matter of just what's the best offer out there. Mm-hmm. I like you guys, and I might even buy you a gift card to dinner, and that's awesome, but I'm not going to walk away from $10,000 extra because your letter's awesome. Yeah. It's very rare that would happen.
What would you tell somebody if you were working with them and they said, you think we should write a letter?
I would say it's up to you. If you want to write the letter, that's fine. There may be some compliance issues with letters being written. I will leave that to the compliance broker and let him tell us if that's a thing or not. But I would tell you that I usually just leave that up to the buyer. If they ask me what I would do, I would say I've never written a letter to win the house, to win the bid.
Not even one?
I've not written one.
You haven't even thought about it?
I mean, I've thought about it because I've had clients that have written letters, but I personally would not write a letter.
I got you.
My offer stands on its merit.
You don't seem like a letter writer, really.
While Corey's looking, I will say that the rates this week, as quoted by Hannah Rogers, our Movement mortgage lender, 30-year rates are still right above 3%. 3.03 was the average for this past week. So rates are still low. If you're looking to buy a house, this is really cheap money, so now's a good time. All right, what's the next headline?
So this next one, the headline is a bit wordy, but basically the idea is it's asking the question, why is inventory rising now? And then there's speculating, home buyers pushing back at the price growth, time of year, school starting back and that sort of thing. Although it does note last year, we didn't even seem to really have that, that seasonality. So with inventory rising now, why do you think that's happening?
Well, there's a few things. I think last year is an anomaly from every instance, right? Like last year is just not something you need to compare year over year to. Really, you should go 2019 and this year and say, okay, how do they compare? Or better yet, let's go 2015 forward and say, okay, what usually happens in July, August, and September? And usually we have more inventory on the market at that time. So it is normal for a seasonal adjustment. That's certainly something we see all the time. Now, this year's still a little different because normal market, we should have 350 homes available in the Dalton MLS, and we have 196 as of yesterday. So there's still a big gap of where we need to be. So that's part of it. Part of it is what you said, and that the article said was prices are getting really high. And so if my neighbor just sold his house for $320 and my house is worth $290, but I've got a great comp at $320, I'm putting that puppy on the market, right? Let me make that extra $30,000. So I think that plays into it a little bit. There is a huge gap in the Dalton MLS from the average sold price versus the average list price. It's almost $100,000 difference. So yeah, the idea of sellers trying to get maximum value is real, and buyers are hesitating. So that's causing those days on market to go up a little bit. It's causing the number of homes on the market to be higher. We still have over 200 homes pending. So the market is, let's say, slowing, sure, but it was crazy hot. It was fever pitch 6 months ago. So now it's still a super hot market. Anytime there's more pending than there are active listings, it's a supercharged market.
Right.
But, it's getting closer. That number's getting closer together.
Go back, you said $100,000 difference between the sold price and
the average sold price in 2021, $237,000 roughly. The average list price, currently active listings, $325,000.
Okay.
So if you just look at the active listings on the market today, $325,000 is the average price for homes that are listed. So when you look at those two numbers, there's definitely a disconnect.
Right.
We aren't seeing $100,000 offers get accepted. I mean, $100,000 off of the list price. We're not seeing those get accepted. So what is the difference? What we do see get accepted is 5%, 3%. Sometimes we get full price, but there's a big difference. So what that ultimately means is if they are overpriced that far, they're going to end up expiring or withdrawing the listing because they were just too far away.
Sure.
That's what happens.
Okay. Ben Carson on hot housing market. Buy now before spending bills increase inflation. What does he mean by that exactly?
What do they mean by increased inflation? So Ben Carson, the head of HUD, I think he is the HUD secretary, right? So he is in the cabinet. Or at least he was under Trump. Is he still the HUD secretary?
It says former housing.
Former HUD. There we go. I was about to say, wait a minute, that should have changed. At any rate, he is saying that $3.5 trillion spending bill is kind of being talked about in Congress and being tossed around. It may get passed, may not, who knows. But if $3.5 trillion gets put into the economy and all those roads get built, all the bridges get built, all the money gets spent on tech, all the money gets sloshed around in the system, then there's more money out there. And if there's more money out there chasing the same amount of goods, that is by definition inflation. So if there's more money, I've got more money in my pocket. When I was willing to pay $50,000 for that brand new Ford truck 3 years ago, I might be willing to pay $80,000 now because I actually have it. And we all know Americans are terrible savers, so we're not just going to go save that extra money, that $3.5 trillion divided by 330 million people. That's a good bit of money in your pocket, and I'm not good enough to do that math, but I'll tell you, that's a good bit of money. Yeah. And so there's the difference, right? They're going to be willing to pay more because they have more. So all it takes is the price of those things to go up in order for people to say, well, I've got the money, let's do that. One of the things that wasn't mentioned but is also happening is wage increase is happening. So
Right.
people that used to make $13 an hour now are making 15 or 17, and so now they have more money. And so
Which goes a very long way. The first time home buyers, even a $1 raise. That
it
matters.
is amazing how much difference it makes because we leverage the money, right? If you're making $1 more per hour and you're getting a 97% loan, that increases your buying power tremendously. So leverage matters too. So the wage increase problem, though, comes into the supply side of the economics. So if I'm having to pay the waitress $15 an hour where I was paying her $11 an hour, that burger is going to cost more.
Right.
And so if that burger costs more, you can see that play out in every industry that we have. So housing is certainly going to see that too, right? Since we are a housing show, the cost of that house is going to go up. If somebody can make $15 an hour being a waiter, then I've got to pay the guy that can read a tape measure and use a circular saw. I've got to pay him $22 an hour. Otherwise, he's just going to go be a waiter, right? So there's some level of actual cost structure going up. When you've got cost structure going up and the person has more money to spend, there's two drivers of that price that cause that price to go up. So to Ben's point, yes, you should buy now because with interest rates at 3%, like we just mentioned, all of these costs going up and you having more money, if you buy now and lock in a 30-year rate at 3%, you'll be better off than buying 12 months from now when the cost of the thing, the average home price has gone up 8% and the rate has gone up 3.5%, 4% now. Okay, well, now it's a double whammy and you've lost money. So that's the ticket.
And I think we talked about, and it's probably about a month ago now, like now would be a better time than ever to, if you're that first time buyer or whatever, and you're looking around and your budget is maybe not quite where you want it to be. If you are trying to hit that 160 qualification mark to get in an average home in our area, now's the time to ask your employer for that raise, because that, like we just said, could be the difference between getting what you want and not. And I would say now more than ever, that employer is going to be more likely to say, yeah, sure, we'll give you that raise, and especially if you tell them why you want it, because they want to stick around. And
that's absolutely right. A couple things. There are we're now hiring signs all over town, right? So that's one thing. The employer knows you can go across the street and get a job. So that's one thing. The other thing, the employer knows that if you buy a home, you're more stable. You're more likely to be that employee for a while. So the employee has more power today than they've ever had in the past. So yes, walk into your boss's office and say, hey, would you like a raise?
Awesome.
Or I would like a raise, I guess is what you should say.
No, I think you should say it the way you did. Go in there, demand. And I think that's a great way to end it. That's This Week in Housing. Go ask for a raise. I'm Corey Shields, and this is Michael Williams. Thank you for watching.
See you guys.